we're seeing this new area emerge where health is actually becoming quite important to consumers in a way that it hasn't been before. And this chart shows the life expectancy over time of people in different countries. Can you all guess which one is the US? Yeah, it's not a surprise, right? And I could put up any major developed countries on this chart, and the US would be in close to that same position, relatively speaking. People are starting to take note of this. Why aren't we living as long anymore? Why are we dying earlier than people in other countries, despite spending so much more on healthcare and everything else? Late morning. I think I am the very last thing you have to see before you get to move on with your lives. I'm Jack. I'm from Datassential. We're here to just try to make the industry a little bit smarter and connect us a little more deeply with consumers. And let me start with this. Well, first, does anyone here speak Latin? The lights are sort of bright, so you might have to look around and tell me if you see a hand up. Any Latin speakers? Good. So if I butcher this, no one's going to know. Sorry. Venite ad me omnes, qui stomacho laboratis et ego vos restaurabo. Thank you. Translated into the language that I think we speak, it says, "Come to me, all who suffer from the stomach, and I will restore you." That word restaurabo means to restore, to renew, and that is actually the word, the root of the word restaurant, for the industry that we are all in. And as the story goes, this sign with that saying on it hung above the door of what is arguably the first modern restaurant, which was opened in, I think they had other tavern style things and ancient China and whatnot. But if you look up the history of the modern restaurant, some will say it was a restaurant founded in 1765 by this guy, Boulanger, and he had things like different broths and soups. And he would have a dish called, I think it was sheep's feet and white sauce, which is definitely not on trend today. But he put that sign on his restaurant, and that is credited for being perhaps the first modern restaurant. Now, 7 years later, this other guy, Antoine Bouvier, perhaps, comes along and sort of iterates on the idea and really forms what we know to be a restaurant today. They said he was a portly fellow. He had a prodigious memory, and he could recall a patron he hadn't seen in 20 years. So he was really into this notion of service. And I was trying to find a picture of this guy or a painting, but they didn't have iPhones or anything back then. So the closest I could get was this over here. And you can actually go visit him, the first modern true restaurateur. I think the cemetery is in, that's him right there. France, Paris, perhaps somewhere, bring a sandwich, eat at his home, and have a good time. But we owe a lot to this. And if you think about what we got with those early restaurants, well, one, we got a formalized menu. So this is actually a menu from 1790. It's probably a little bit too small to read, but it's a bunch of eggs on here. And if you look at the pricing, this is, I think, actually before the franc was even introduced. But if you normalize pricing to today, an entree was maybe $30 to $40 to $50 or so. So that's sort of what inflation has been like over time. But when you think about what these first, what we call modern restaurants really were, here's some of the innovations that they brought that didn't really exist together before. They had a formalized menu, a piece of paper or something where you had a selection that you could order from. Attentive service, elegant dinnerware, interesting food that you couldn't just make at home. They were sort of social. You'd be doing it with other people and have some sort of that socialization thing going on. And they were meant to be a bit more of an experience than the way you would probably just normally eat inside your house or outside of a restaurant at the time. And I guess the question that we sort of ask is, yeah, that was 260 years ago or something. But how much of that still applies today out of these 6 major factors? I think you could probably arguably get rid of elegant dinnerware, maybe that applies a little bit, but these other 5 things that remain, I think are still pretty important. And I think the main topic that we want to talk about today is Are things going well in these 5 areas, or are we seeing challenges perhaps that are no fault of our own, just things happening in the world, a lot of it owing to technology, that's going to put pressure on one or more of these things that really makes a restaurant a restaurant?